All right, let's move on to part 3 of the digital project. And this is, we're gonna get something a little crazier, a little fancier using JavaScript. Because JavaScript can manipulate a web page, it can do programmatic things like math and things like that. And so we are going to use some JavaScript. But we're not gonna write a lot of our own JavaScript. Instead, we're gonna use something called a library, right? And so a library is a set of code someone else wrote. And you're just going to simply implement it and then maybe change options for your own wants. And that's how we're going to do it to make a fun little map. So if we go quickly to the web page, right, you want to go to, right, our leaflet page and make sure you're on the right page. Examples, quick start, not the home page. They look very similar. This is just like a quick tutorial guide. And so we're going to leverage this. So this is a library. And it's JavaScript, but it's not just JavaScript, right? There's some CSS that has to be done to style some of the things that we're going to use. And so they wrote that code. And so we're going to simply point to that code to load. So this is the style sheet. And you'll notice, right, this code actually exists online somewhere. This is called a CDN, a content distribution network. And so what that does is it hosts code for someone to point to for their website. That's the whole purpose of it. So I'm going to copy this CSS link. We already saw how to do this, right? And I'm going to go up to my head, right, and making sure I'm inside my head, right? So I'm going to be below my original style sheet that we did to style our page. Hit Command V, and there's my wonderful style sheet there. The next thing we need is the JavaScript portion of this. So this is the library where all the JavaScript is written. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it in. Now one thing I want to show you, I'm going to hit save and nothing's going to happen because we haven't instantiated or implemented it. But if you were to go ahead and just look at, where this script is coming from, you'll see a bunch of gobbledygook, right? And this is JavaScript, except for this is not how we write JavaScript. This is what's known as minified, where you write the JavaScript in a nice clean way and then you run it through a program that makes the file smaller, right? It's all about making our file size smaller. Instead, you'll see writing regular JavaScript when we start doing that. So the next thing we need to do is, okay, so we've loaded our library. It's CSS and it's JavaScript. We need an element to make this map happen. And so we're going to use a div, and you already see a div on our page. And so divs are just empty containers. That's all they are. But we're going to give it something called an ID. In this, we saw a class. An ID is a lot like a class, except for we could use this class over and over on this web page. We can only use an ID of map once. ID is for unique elements, and we want a unique element, so we're going to make that. I'm going to save it, and we go back to our page, and we still see nothing, right? Because this has no CSS or anything on it. So we're going to go ahead and at least give this a size. So let's get all the way down to the bottom so we don't put it in anything else, and we're going to select our map. So hashtag map. Hashtag is the ID in CSS, and we're going to say we're going to give it a height and a width, our own height and width. So we're going to say height 400 pixels, width 100%, right? So now notice, right, each line kind of has this way it goes. So first of all, this is the scope of this code, right? So all of this stuff that goes inside it goes on this selector, as we call it, right? And then these are the properties. So we say it's a height, that's a property, we hit colon, and then we tell it its value. And so these are things that are set, right? You'll see up here, right? Position relative. And we have to end everything in a semicolon, right? That's like a period, basically, in code. And so I'm going to hit save, and now when I go back, I'm going to hit return and scroll down, and you'll see now we just have this blank area, right? Because we haven't actually instantiated the map, right? We have at least the area. So if you've got this, you know you're going right. So, okay, we need to instantiate this. And so I know I said we mostly write all the instructions in the head here, except for this is the way JavaScript executes sometimes. You have to put it after all these elements have been created on the page. Now, there's other ways to do it, but this is going to be our easiest way without getting too deep into code. So what we're going to do is write these script tags. And you actually already saw these. When you cut and paste this, these were scripts. While this one was calling for a script not on this page, we're going to actually just write our script on this page right here. So we're going to write everything in between these two script tags. So let's go back to our quick start guide and roll down our page and say, this is setting up the map, right? So we're going to set up our map with this code. So let's just simply cut and paste this code. If you want to know what's happening here, this is creating a variable. This else probably stands for leaflet. These are what are called methods, right? And each method has parameters, so things we pass into them. You can think of methods. Methods are just functions, things that it tells the code to do. All right, so we're just going to cut and paste it without worrying too much about it. Put that in, click save, go back over to our page, hit refresh, and now we see, oh, look, we've got this going on, except for I have a problem here. Why is this above it? I don't know. I'm going to figure that out there in a second. So we, what's my problem here? I put 110%. I'm going to hit save. Go back over here. So coding is just mostly sometimes just some problem solving. So it's almost always a typo. So I'm kind of glad I did that. So we're going back here and we don't have a map yet. Well, we have stuff. We have this here. So it's got actually some things going on, but we don't see the map. To do the map, we have to do something called a tile set. So don't worry what this is. Don't even really worry about this. This is too complicated. I don't want to get you in the weeds. We're just going to go down to the next line of this code here and copy it. So we're going to copy this, and below that variable, right, we're going to put this, right? And I'm just going to clean this up by using tabs, right? And so this is really just calling for some open source map tiles. You don't have to worry how maps work. Slippy maps work. But now when we do that, we'll see, hey, there it is. We've got a map. Now here's the thing, right? I told you, right, we leverage these libraries, but we want to customize some of the things, right? Give some options. And we don't care about London. We're not in jolly old London, governor. We're in Iowa City. So let's put a map of Iowa City. So what we have to do is figure out in this, what do we need to change? And so if you notice in this, when we call the map, we have this function called, or method called setView. And if you look in these two brackets here, this is these numbers. These numbers represent lat and long. So we're going to change that. And if we look at what is Iowa City's latitude and longitude, you'll find that we need to replace this first number, and don't mistakenly get rid of these brackets or it won't work, with 41.66. And we'll replace this number with 91.53. Now I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to refresh. And now look, good old Iowa City. Look, we're on the TV, right? And we can double click to zoom in, or click these. We can pan around and check out our map. That's awesome, right? You just made a map without having to do a whole heck of a lot, but you did it programmatically with code. But let's add something else to it. Let's actually mark the Adler Journalism Building, and let's make it so when we click on it, it will tell us that's what the marker stands for, right? So some more interactivity. So for this one, we're going to need to add a marker, right? So on this quick start page, let's start going down, and we see here this marker, right? This is what we need to do. This is their marker function, obviously, right? So we're going to grab that same piece of code. We're going to put it in. Now, right now, remember that stuff you saw up here? That's the same thing. This would put it in London, right? And so we need to change that to specifically where the Adler Journalism Building is. So I got that latitude and longitude for you by just going to some other website and looking for it. And it is 41.66071. And the other number is negative 91.53. 876. We'll hit save. We'll go back over, click on it, and there it is. There's our little marker, right? And so we can even zoom in on there, right, and see, look, that's where you are right now. Oh my goodness. Except for, you know, I want to be able to click this and tell it that it's the Adler Journalism Building if I was, you know, going to this map page. So we're going to do a pop-up. So let's roll down this page a little bit to working with pop-ups. And this is it right here. So this is calling that same variable that we built over here. And so we just want this code right here. So I'm going to click it, copy it, and go here and paste that. And this is right here. We're passing in this parameter the message that we want. So we're going to get rid of this, and we're just going to say Adler Journalism, if I can spell, building, hit save, go back here, Go to our page, and there it is, right? It's already, I guess it's already up by default, right? But we could click on it, close it, click on it, right? And all that's written in the JavaScript library, how that works, right? We didn't have to write any of that code ourselves. All we had to do was implement that code and change some of the options to what we want. And that's a lot of how you write JavaScript for the modern web, because there's so many things that have already been written. That writing bespoke code is only really for higher level things that you need to do. So that's it. That's interactivity and JavaScript.